This is the HomeTech Podcast for Friday, January 27th. From Sarasota, Florida, I'm Seth Johnson.
From Powell, Ohio, I'm TJ Huddleston.
And from Pickering, Ontario, I'm Gavin Kemp.
And welcome to the HomeTech Podcast, a podcast about all aspects of home technology, home automation, servers.
Broken servers.
Broken servers that don't work. Let's talk about a server that does work, though. Mastodon. We have our Mastodon instance, HomeTech.social. It's working, and a lot of people joined this week because of the new apps, I guess, iOS apps, maybe Android apps too. I'm not sure. I'm on iOS, so I don't really keep up with the Android side of things, but I do know that there's a, Ivory was released finally, which is if you use Tweetbot on Twitter, which has been discontinued now, Ivory is basically the same thing. And it feels good. It feels the same. They basically have ported their app over and made it work with Mastodon stuff, which is awesome. That's great. And then Ice Cubes still got that going on. I have and there's a Tusker, Tusk. I don't know, it's green. It's got little tusks on it. It works really well too. There's an unending sea of really good apps that belong with this service. I've been really impressed with them all, and they're all just iterating and doing more things, and I don't know, it's getting fun and excited. So I'm excited to see that. I'm excited to see all of the new people. Did we get a final count on those? I was looking at them
total
the other day.
users 1247. So that's a lot of people.
782 new users.
And I've been going back and forth on my Mastodon apps. I've settled on at the moment on Ice Cubes. It seems to be the most well-rounded app. It's not hideous or anything. And the most important thing to me is I have my edit feature, which I'm not sure why a lot of the other Mastodon apps I've used so far haven't had that, but it is a welcome addition because for the longest time, I didn't even know you could edit anything on Mastodon.
Yep. Works on the web app, but can't on the clients. You don't have it there.
Yeah, and I've used meta text, and I can't think of the other one I used, but I had 4 or 5 installed at one time, so I was getting notifications, kind of like what you were getting, Seth. Where you get 12 notifications at one time, and it's all the same thing.
You got 12
it's
apps.
Just 12 different apps.
Yeah, exactly.
So I finally cleared them all out, and I only have one now. It's just Ice Cubes at the moment. I think I'll stick with that one. I don't really have any reason to switch at the moment.
Yeah. Earlier in the week I was posting about how many text messages I was getting, but I've done the same thing. Just kind of turned off the notifications on the other ones, and we'll roll with that. Gavin, what are you using these days? You still using Ivory, or have you switched to anything else? Yeah.
I've been using Ivory for a while now, and I actually bought their subscription to support them. My main reason why is just, familiar. I'm familiar with it. It feels familiar. I've been using Tweetbot for many years, and switching over to Ivory, it just felt right. So I'm just going to stick with it. I know it's not the most feature complete, but the developer is going to be adding a lot of these features over time. And, I can wait. I'm not in a rush, but this is what, Mastodon needed was good apps. And I think Ivory and Ice Cubes are 2 examples of great apps.
Yeah, they're different. I mean, in the design and everything, just kind of flipping back and forth and looking at them. But the Ivory app has the benefit of a very stable code base and UI. The user interface is smooth. When you pull up images, you can still throw them and swipe them off the screen like you could do with Tweetbot. On the other hand, Ivory, it's very, strict and there's choppiness to it. If I take the keyboard, do you use the mouse on the keyboard? Have you ever used that? The feature where you hold down the space bar? Have you ever seen that?
Yes. And you move the cursor around the place. Yep.
If you do that on Ivory, it does this flickery thing, goes back and forth. If you do, and there's a bug, and whatever he's using, and either it's the framework bug or his bug or whatever, but you use Tweetbot, and all the other apps for that matter don't have the same problem. But that's because Tweetbot's been around for 12, 13 years and has 12 and 13 years worth of experience and all these, edge cases they have built into the code. And like you said, not as feature complete, but it's kind of like a trade-off, right? You got the stable code base versus the kind of buggy kind of thing, but you can also edit tweets. Or edit toots or whatever they call them. Posts. It's not toots.
Toots.
Yeah,
it's toots.
I don't know.
But I also think they kind of got caught in the middle of things. So he was working on Ivory from, I think, before even the API got shut down, right? So he was taking his time. He was playing with new frameworks, putting together something, just, trying to get something going. And then they shut off the API. And I guess he was thrown into a situation where, you know what, we have to release this now, for income.
Got to feed your kids, man.
Yeah, exactly. And because of that, now he made the decision of, we don't have everything we want in here, but we'll get, we'll show you our roadmap of what we'll be adding, and you will be supporting us. So, and I'm fine with that, so I expect to have some bugs. He's working on a lot of them, very active, and you follow him on Mastodon and you'll see like he's very he's squashing them. So over time it will become better.
Yep, definitely. I sponsored both the Ice Cubes one and Tweetbot.
Oh, I didn't even know you could sponsor the Ice Cubes one.
He's got like a tip jar in there. Like you can go give him a few bucks.
Nice. I'll have to check that out.
And that one's free. Like it's a free app. The Ivory one is a subscription. It's quite costly, but it's got a big company behind it too. So
yeah, that's kind of why I didn't jump in with it right away. It seems like it would be a good option, but some of the features it lacks and the cost of it is something I'm hesitant about at the moment. I know it comes from a good company and they're they have a good reputation, but I'm not ready to invest in that just yet.
Yep, no, that makes sense. And you have options here, which is really cool. Like with Twitter now, you just have the Twitter app, which I deleted. Like I kept getting. Now that the Tweetbot thing was gone, I was like, well, I deleted that. I'd click a link and I ended up in the Twitter app. I'm like, what am I looking at here? It's just awful. So I deleted that and now I get over to the website, which isn't any better.
Twitter is I didn't realize how bad it was till I had to use their app. But it's still a situation where I have to use Twitter. There's things on it I use for work, people I follow that they're not switching over. There's people that have their livelihood made off of Twitter still, and they do what they do on Twitter. They have all their followers. They're not switching over. I have to follow them. So I'm going to be between the two social media. Nothing I could do. I just need a better Twitter app. That's all.
You're not going to get it.
I know.
Nope.
I like how this is set up because you can basically can subscribe to what you want to. You're going to get what you get out of it. Like I'm going through the local timeline right now, and I'm seeing the local timeline to our instance. There's people posting about, here's TJ talking about a home theater he finished. And then here's a guy asking and talking about a Ubiquiti doorbell and that kind of thing. So, I mean, it's neat that it's all in one spot, I guess. I'm sure there are other technology focused instances out there. And I could go join those as well and subscribe, I guess, to their local timelines and just kind of see what people are talking about. But
does Ice Cubes allow you to do that?
Yes, you can actually pin it into your. I think it combines them at the same time. Okay. It's kind of cool.
I was looking for that on Ivory today, and I don't think they allow that.
I don't think they've done it. Yeah.
Yeah, it would be cool to add another Mastodon instance to your feed so you can see their local posts. That's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, that's one of the really killer features on Ivory right now, which I'm sure they'll get to. It's just there's an ever expanding amount of work and features that you can plug into this thing because it's designed to be an open platform. There's some that are just all you do is post images to the they don't support text or anything. It's just you post photos and that's it. And developers can just do what they want with this thing. So I'm going to try and keep these plates spinning and keep the server up and going because I can't keep my local server running. The Unraid server failed me. We made a joke about it last week, but it is dead, not working, and soon to be just, I don't know, scrapped or gutted or thrown out in the trash.
This is what happens when you make fun of your server. You should never make fun of your server. Gavin's kind of going with the extreme where he's basically just talking so positively about all the robots and everything. You just need not to talk smack about the robots and you'd be all right.
Yeah, if the robots work as well as my server, I don't think Gavin has anything to worry about because they're just going to crash and not work.
That's true.
So, well, we do have a couple of stories this week. It's a very slow week in the technology space, but we do have a couple of HomeTech headlines. So what do you say we jump into them?
Let's do it.
All right. Well, this story about this school has been popping up everywhere over the last week. So we kind of had to talk about it. For about a year and a half, a Massachusetts high school has been lit up around the clock because the district can't turn off roughly 7,000 lights that are inside the sprawling campus building. The lighting system was installed at Minnechaug Regional High School when it was built over a decade ago, and it was intended to save money and energy. But ever since the software that ran the automation system inside there failed back in August of 2021, the lights have been on continuously around the clock. And the story here says, costing the taxpayers a small fortune. The school district official pushed me back a little bit and then said it's probably in the thousands of dollars, not the tens of thousands of dollars, because they've got energy efficient fluorescent style LED lights inside there, and teachers are actually going up and removing bulbs when they don't want them, and staffers are turning off exterior lights with the breakers. So yeah, interesting. It's a 248,000 square foot campus remodeled back in 2012. The school board wanted a green lighting system, so they got it. It lasted until August of 2021, and staff in the school started noticing the lights didn't dim in the daytime like they used to, and they were just burning bright all night. So there's quite the story about how, all the issues they've had trying to track down someone who knows about the system, because this was done, almost a decade ago, and the company that installed it went out of business, and just finding someone who knew about the software, knew about the hardware in there. They got a new quote to replace, just gut and replace the entire automation system for $1.2 million. They decided not to do that and just kind of piecemeal it back together. And the parts were put on order from the factory in China. And of course, pandemic delays and all that good stuff. It's pushed out the install. Let's see, they started this in November 2021 when they start the order. Got delayed until March, then again until October, and then now back into the February of 2023. So maybe next month they'll be able to turn off their lights. I've been seeing this all over. TJ, I can hear you laughing there. What do you think about this thing, man?
I think it's ridiculous that, anytime you rely just on software to make things work, it's going to go bad at some point, right? I mean, software is great. Technology is great. All this stuff is wonderful. But at some point you need a physical shutoff. And this is a prime example of why. This sounds like they can fix the issue. They can replace whatever piece needs to be replaced. It just hasn't been in stock for quite a while, or they have to custom make it or whatever. And it's been nearly 2 years now that they've had this problem. And, it's still a problem, obviously. But if they had some kind of physical override, it probably wouldn't have been as big of a problem. And it wouldn't have cost taxpayers, thousands and thousands upon, thousands of dollars in order to resolve it. So it's weird to me that systems like this are still designed without a physical override in the event that something like this happens. And we're talking like a 10-year-old system. Like, it's not even that old. Like, if it was like a 30 or 40-year-old system, like, it would make sense a little bit. Like, everything's kind of outdated. You can't buy anything anymore. You have to replace every single piece of it. But this is a 10-year-old system. Like, you should have some kind of override to turn this off. And this is a prime example of why.
Yeah, probably not designed as well. Greg in the chat is asking, do we know what kind of system they have?
I don't think it said, did it?
Yeah, it says 5th level. I've never heard of 5th level before.
Yeah, that sounds like something out of China. It sounds like they couldn't have gone with like Lutron or Crestron or something. Like, yeah, I guess good thing they didn't go with Crestron.
That's probably the $1.2 million replacement. He's like, well, Lutron exists and we can replace it with this and it'll actually work. But
it's just such a weird thing.
Yeah, I don't know. Gavin, do you have any thoughts on this thing?
You know what? I've in the do-it-yourself space, I've heard of people that wanted to do something like this. They were always talking about installing their smart light bulbs and getting rid of all the switches for a clean look, that everything was automated or controlled through an app and there was no physical switches everywhere. And I just always thought that was a bad idea. I'm just like, there's going to be a time when, that app does. And when they talked about their apps, a lot of them were cloud-based. I'm like, this is a bad idea. One of my rules, whenever I do anything, there has to be a physical switch to turn it on or off, and I always try and keep it something familiar too. Like, I don't want to be so different that people walk in the room and they don't know how to control it anymore. A switch they're used to, flip it on and flip it off, but then it can also be automated. it's just a rule of thumb, and that's one of the reasons why I never liked the smart bulbs. I mean, the only advantage to the smart bulbs was, I guess, the colors.
Yeah, color or temperature change.
Yeah, that type of stuff. But I've never been a fan of smart bulbs.
All right, I'm gonna push back. On all of this. Like, so I'm gonna say, buildings like this size of building is not like our homes, right? Like this is. I've been seeing a lot of comments about, well, why didn't they just flip a breaker off? It's like, you can't do that. That's not what you do in this. There may not be one breaker. There may be many breakers, many sub panels, many like ways to shut this thing down. It's just not how it works. But at the same time, like these commercial buildings are not built or designed or wired the same way our residential homes are either. And I only have a little bit of experience with like the whole building automation system land, but it's way different than what we deal with here. So in on the residential side, and it sounds like to me they went with something, the Fifth Element they got in China or whatever, but they do have a way out without having to patch it back together. And that's paying for a new modern system that does work for $1.2 million, or they can just kind of piecemeal and patch things over time. And it sounds like they've gone with the latter thing. And it's just if you take a step back and you think, well, why didn't they just pay somebody to stay late and shut all this stuff down? It's like, have you ever guys dealt with labor contracts and unions? Like, you're insane. No one's staying late to turn off a light. Like, it's just going to get left on, especially if it doesn't cost anything because it's an LED. And at the same time, they're being told from the electrician, like, oh yeah, the parts are all in order and we're going to have it in 3 months from now, 5 months from now, 6 months. Like, it just keeps getting pushed back. So like, there's really no time to make those kinds of decisions. I don't know. This all seems perfectly reasonable to me. It's absurd, but it is perfectly reasonable. And I can see how it happened. And I'm glad that they were able to like engineer a way out of it that's cost effective for a school district. I'd rather them spend money on the kids and that kind of thing rather than 1.2 million going to facilities for some reason. So I do like the fact that they installed these like dimmable LED lights, like fluorescent lights, because the schools these days are also modern. Like, you want to dim down the lights. It sounds like this had like a daylight harvesting system where during the day, the lights would actually reduce their levels based on how much light's coming through the window. So that's like a more complicated system. There's a ton of them out there in the commercial world, but at the same, and it sounds like this is kind of just all put on a giant building control for building automation, which is done. Like, it's always done. Johnson Controls, Siemens, all of these big companies have giant building campus automation systems. It just sounds like they probably went with the wrong brand. Like someone sold them the wrong brand and went out of business, and it's all gone. So that does suck, but I'm glad that they took the effort to do this in the first place 10, 12 years ago, and update their system to be all, daylight harvesting, LED controlled and dimmable. It's really good. And it could have been much, much more if these were all like incandescent lights or whatever, not LED lights throughout the campus. So
watch the follow-up post be about how an integrator comes in and puts a bunch of Zigbee switches in a closet somewhere.
Yeah.
It's just
the things I was seeing on Reddit were along those lines. I would just do a Pico control.
Shelly.
Like, oh yeah, Shelly. Yeah, they wanted to put Shelly devices in.
God, people love Shellys for some reason. They're all right, but
you got a building with like 3,000 Shelly nodes.
I don't know. I think the idea of the lighting control system makes sense and everything. I just don't see how a project that size doesn't have some kind of manual override. And like, obviously you don't expect somebody to go through, I don't expect anybody to go through the building and flip every switch off at the end of the night.
Yeah.
But you would think that there would be something to kind of just bypass the smart system out of it. And that's my only complaint, is that, like, things break and software dies and all that good stuff. But it just seems to me like it was a bad design from the get-go if you can't manually turn stuff off.
At least it failed to on.
I guess, because what would they would have bring your flashlight to school,
right? Just lamps plugged into the outlets.
We need reading lamps, headlamps.
Yeah, there's a silver lining everywhere, I think. So. I don't know. I'm glad they did it. It sounds like it did actually save them money, although just quite inconvenient.
Probably not now.
Well, yeah, I mean,
because it's been on for a year and a half.
Yeah, and now they've got to patch the system all back together. Maybe next time they'll go with a more reputable company and brand.
Cost savings is negligible now.
Exactly. So, all right, well, moving on here to other electronic things people don't like. Appliance makers like Whirlpool and LG just don't understand why only about 50% or possibly fewer of the owners have connected their smart dishwashers, ovens, and refrigerators to the internet. The issue, according to manufacturers, is that customers just don't know all the things that manufacturers can do if the users connect a device that spins their clothes or keeps their food cold, like providing manufacturers with data and insights about how their customers are using their products and allowing companies to, quote, send over-the-air updates and sell relevant replacement parts or subscriptions. It really sounds to me like these companies just don't understand why there's a disconnect here. There's a big disconnect here. Oh man. We recently just bought a new refrigerator. It's got Wi-Fi hooked up, and I looked at the sticker on the side of it and I said, oh, that's neat. And then I took the sticker off and threw it away. So who knows what it's doing? It's not connected to my Wi-Fi.
Well, and most of the time the features are not anything useful, right? Like, I mean, like the fridge one, they have an option where you can like see inside the fridge. And like, I guess that's kind of useful because if you're out and about, you can see what you have. But like, I don't need to start my washer remotely or start my kettle remotely or anything like that.
Well, it's not even that. They're just complaining that people can't, quote, send over the air updates for their software that's buggy, or, quote, sell relevant replacement parts or subscription services. Like, yeah, that's why I didn't hook it up to the internet. I didn't want you talking to me that way. This was a transaction that I completed and I finished, and I expect this refrigerator to work for, 5-10 years or whatever. Like, I don't need it talking to me.
Yeah, I just want it to work,
Yeah.
It's kind of like a lighting system, right? Like I just want it to work and I don't need my software to like stop it from working. Like if I go to my fridge and it's like doing an update and I open the fridge door and it bricks the fridge, like that's not useful to me at all.
They're not that smart. I mean, I'm just going to say that they're I don't know.
Hey, we don't know what these manufacturers are doing.
I think that's what people are afraid of is what you don't know they're doing, right? Like you plug this in and you really don't know. And on top of that, every appliance is going to have their own app, unless you went with the same brands. Can you imagine you have 5 apps for just the different appliances you have in your house? It would be annoying. Then all the push notifications. The other day I got my Amazon lady, I had a notification on it and I couldn't even figure out how to get this notification off. But when I finally did, it was a notification telling me that the toner in my printer was low and I should order some more toner, and I was like, that was annoying. I see that when I go to the printer. Thank you. I'll order it when I'm ready, but I don't need her telling me that. But I see why they want it.
Yeah. They just want your data. They want your data so they can sell it to their data brokers or whatever. See, Greg saying someone in his neighborhood set up a Samsung refrigerator and his phone tries to connect to it every time he drives by.
That's useful.
It's time to send them something special on their refrigerator TV screen.
Yeah, I think the only thing I want I don't really have any desire to have a smart appliance or anything, but I think the only thing I would want would be notifications, right? Like you left your stove on, or your stove's been on for like 2 hours, or like the stove door is open. Stuff like that, like I think would be kind of useful. But like the remote start or any of that other stuff, I have no desire for.
I wouldn't mind diagnostic information at times too. Say your oven's not heating properly. Let me know that, hey, you're not reaching the right temperatures in your oven. Something's up. That type of thing. And what if your furnace, for example, the fan wasn't spinning at the right speeds? That would be cool to know. Like something's wrong. You better get this looked at.
I don't know. I think that these companies are just approaching this from the completely wrong way. They're upset basically that they're not getting extra money off subscription services for you to tell you that not allow you to turn on and off your oven or whatever. They're trying to basically sell you water filters for your refrigerator because you forgot to do it, and they want to send you those parts when they go bad. and they don't want you eking out another, 2-3 weeks on a old water filter in the refrigerator.
And I'm fine with that. Like, if you want to sell me the water filters, I'm okay with that. Just don't make them the most expensive water filter. Like, at least beat the price that I'm getting them for on Amazon.
I'm giving you my data. Now give me something. Give me a discount on your expensive water
Exactly.
filter.
Yeah, smart appliances are kind of like the crypto space. Everybody's just shoving the things into it. It's like, oh, we have a smart appliance. We're not really sure why, but it's smart. It's kind of like the crypto space where it's like, oh, we're on blockchain. Well, what are you doing with it? Tracking stuff. I don't know. Smart appliances are the same thing. It's smart. It connects to your Wi-Fi. And I think one of the awful things too about appliances in general is like one of the biggest companies probably pushing smart appliances is Samsung, and Samsung appliances are awful.
Oh yeah.
They are trash. They break all the time. They're basically throwaway devices, and you don't have a $4,000 fridge that you throw away. Like you want to be able to repair it and stuff, and that's just not the nature of those appliances. So that's probably a bad taste in a lot of people's mouth.
I have a Samsung fridge, dishwasher, stove. I'm not allowed to talk bad about it. I love them. They're great appliances.
That makes sense why you're always talking up about robots.
Yeah.
You don't want your appliances
See,
to
the
break.
robots can make or break your day, man. Like, if you talk bad about your robot, it just decides to, it could ruin your day. It could see that, hey, there's some dog poop over there. I'm purposely going to go and smear it all over the ground.
I'm sorry, you're going to get overruled here because Greg in the chat is also saying I'll never buy another Samsung appliance, and I'm going to say I'm on board with that too. We had a Samsung fridge, and it would constantly freeze up below, like where there's a little tray, bottom drawer you could pull out. It would freeze below that, and I ended up finding out they had a faulty design in their defrost mechanism in the back. Like, you had to take the refrigerator apart, defrost everything, take all the stuff out, take the refrigerator apart, and then I ended up putting like a little copper wire on the defrost element and putting it down into the tube. Like, I rigged up my own defroster thing, and it worked a little bit better, but we're just kind of like, every now and then we'd come back and there'd be like some water puddled up on the bottom, and I'm like, I'm done with this refrigerator. So evidently that's a very, very, very common thing with the Samsung, and they still sell them that way. So good on them. Good on them for.
My mom has a 30-year-old fridge sitting in her basement that's still chugging.
Oh, those don't break.
Yeah, they don't break. They may use a lot of energy, but at the same time, she hasn't had to replace it. I don't know how they've ruined this.
Yeah, we have an old fridge that, like a secondary fridge, kind of over in what we call the laundry room. It's more of like a laundry hallway, but it's just a thin room, and it has a fridge and washer dryer in it, and that thing. It's this tiny, like, ugly refrigerator we picked up for $20, third fridge, whatever. And it's, you can't kill it. You can't kill it. We painted it. You painted it gray. It's like, oh, this will look better if it's gray. Painted the thing.
Did you say third fridge? You have 3 fridges?
I mean, well, technically I do have 3 fridges.
Wow, living the life of luxury over there.
All right. Watch out. It is, guys, it's a day ending in Y, and that means another Home Assistant update for you. We've got actually this is 2023.2 beta release notes, which it looks like they're prepping and getting ready for their February launch of the new software and all the features and everything they've got in here. Gavin, you're the one that posted in here. You're the one that actually has a working Home Assistant install, unlike me, who's N-RAID server.
Wait a minute, I do too.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Jeez, just leave me out of it. That's fine.
Seth is the only guy that has tech issues. You're the only guy, Seth. We all work fine.
And I think he's like one of the most technologically inclined as well. I mean, I guess compared to me, maybe not you, Gavin.
It's all just downhill. Like, I just don't understand why everything hates me right now, because it's probably Clippy out there doing all this. He probably
ever since you got Clippy, actually, your technology has been failing.
No,
maybe it's interference.
It was well before Clippy. So, Gavin, what's going on with this thing?
Okay, so yeah, every month, the last Wednesday of a month, they release their beta for the next release, and then the first Wednesday of that month, they actually release it out to the general public. So The new beta for Home Assistant just came out. It's the 2023.2 release. You can find the release notes on their beta websites and stuff like that. But one of the really cool things about it is they gave us a little hint at their voice integration. So they're kind of coming up with they call it the conversation integration, and it allows you to interact with Home Assistant like a conversation. So you can text the question, like ask it to turn on and off lights if you want. And that's just a piece of the bigger puzzle, because eventually that will tie into the voice where, you'll just end up converting that to text, and then it will ask Home Assistant to do stuff. So as of, they have their release party. They always have a release party. It's going to be on Thursday, January 26th. It's probably already happened by the time this airs. But they'll go more into detail as to what that is. They didn't want to give all the details ahead of time, and I'm going to be watching that for sure. I want to see what it is. Like I said, I want to see where they go with this Year of the Voice. But other than that, they fixed a whole bunch of bugs. They've updated. There's Matter changes going in there, so hopefully that stabilizes a bit more. They've also announced Android Auto integration. I think that's a cool feature if you have Android Auto. Various things. So look, the thing is, they're developing very fast, and there's a whole bunch of code changes in this one, so it's a pretty big release.
Yeah, I was going to say that they're iterating, but it's almost like there's a ton of stuff. I'm just going through all the notes here. There's a ton of stuff in here.
Yeah, if you actually look at all the commits, there's like you scroll. There's a whole bunch of commits that went into this month's update.
Ooh, I can now integrate my Eufy Smart Scale over Bluetooth.
Ooh.
Yeah. The one of the most important things to look at when you see these release notes is the breaking changes, though. Because
I ain't got there yet. Oh, wow. Yeah, look at all
that. A lot
that.
of it may not affect you, but sometimes there's some stuff in there you have to pay close attention to.
Wow. They already removed Python 3.9, which is hilarious, because I think just in the last release, the last major Apple software release for Mac OS, they removed Python 2. So it's like these guys are Python 3.9 out, 3.10 is in, so that may break some things. They actually have quite a few breaking things. Yamaha Music Cast, network receivers, Twinkly. Oh no, not Twinkly.
It always amazes me because they usually only give the beta release comes out this Wednesday, and then they release it to everyone next Wednesday. So there's only a week in between. So it's like, you're going to test all this stuff in a week? Probably not. So that's why when they usually release it, you want to wait for a few point releases for them to actually fix stuff.
No kidding. And this is every month they're doing crazy stuff like this. So
yes, they're moving fast.
Oh yeah, that is screaming fast. Yeah, that is crazy. Well, good on them. Again, a lot of new integrations, a lot of broken integrations that will have to be fixed. And I was looking and clicking at a few of them. They don't look that bad. It looks like, this element here was removed rather than, nothing major. I can't believe they do this every month. And it's just, there's only 2 people working at this company, and the rest is just open source commits. This is crazy.
It's a well-run project, I guess you could say.
Yeah, definitely. Well, all the links and topics we discussed tonight can be found on our show notes over at HomeTech.fm/421. Again, that link is HomeTech.fm/421. All right. Well, we got a couple of picks of the week here. Actually, I think we talked about this before, but TJ, you have successfully installed a Yolink. What is this? Is this LoRa that this is running on? What are you doing? Tell us what you did.
Yeah, so this is Gavin brought it up before. I think he's using it for temperature sensors and something else, if I remember correctly.
My pool.
Yeah, your pool. That's what it was. But it's LoRa. It's supposed to go up to a 1/4 mile in range. So I live in an apartment complex, and Google Maps says it's about 500 feet. But we're going through several apartment buildings themselves, and it's inside of a giant metal box. I kind of get annoyed because I have USPS informed delivery, and it tells me what I'm getting throughout the day, but it never tells me actually when the mail is going to get there, right? And so I wanted a way to be notified whenever I got mail, without having to manually check it every day. And so this past week I was kind of thinking, and I was like, let's go ahead and just solve this. And so I bought a kit off Amazon. I think it was like $65 for 2 motion sensors and the little Yolink hub. And I set it up this morning. I put it inside the mailbox, and it works. It works great. I got notified. I was kind of worried just because it's so cold outside right now. I wasn't sure if it was actually going to work. I put it inside the mailbox, and I got notified as soon as the mailbox opened. And so now I know as soon as I get mail. And like I said, it's quite a bit of a distance away, and it's in a giant metal box, and it still works. And it works pretty instantly. Like as soon as I open the mailbox or tonight to check the mail, it sent me a notification within seconds. And that's pretty impressive for that kind of communication.
I was so impressed because I actually wasn't expecting it to work through all the metal box and all those buildings and everything. Like when you described what it was going through, I was actually shocked it made it through all that, because I'm just going from my pool skimmer to the front corner of my house. You are a much further distance, so that's good. And the Yolink people, they did talk about, like, right now it's all cloud dependent, but they did hint that they will be they're looking at they're developing local APIs. It may require another hub, but you know what? The price for this stuff, I'm actually shocked how cheap this stuff is. Right? Like
it's dirt cheap for what it is.
Exactly.
And yeah, like I said, I'm going through 4 different apartments, because we're basically in a unit with 6 other apartments. And so it's going through all of those apartments to get there, and the metal box, and it still works, super quick. So it must be really good technology for it to work that efficiently.
Yep. And I have their temperature sensors in my fridges in my place. And it's already paid off once because it notified me of my basement freezer. It was actually, the door wasn't fully closed. So once the temperature was starting to rise, I got notified, and it saved something there. So it's a good product, the LoRa stuff. I wish they had soil moisture sensors. That would be the next thing I want from them for my lawn, because between that and the LoRa network, the range would be great.
Yeah, and honestly, that would probably make the most sense. The soil sensors. I'm considering it for like driveway alerts as well. Because I've used a lot of the standalone driveway alerts, and it makes a little chime inside your house or something like that. But getting one that actually ties into the internet and will send you an app notification, it's either super expensive or it just doesn't work that well. This I'm looking at on Amazon right now. You can buy the hub and the outdoor motion sensor for $60. So, I mean, even if
you already have the hub, so you just need the sensor.
Yeah, and the sensor by itself, I think, is only like $20 or $30. And they make all kinds of things in the LoRa. They make like an outdoor plug for landscape lighting. They make light switches. They make temperature sensors, valve controllers, all kinds of stuff. So,
sump pump monitors.
Mm-hmm.
How's the build quality on this stuff?
It's plastic, but it seemed like it had a good heft to it, a good weight to it. It didn't seem like it was like IKEA cheap necessarily. Not that there's anything wrong with IKEA, but it seemed like it was really good quality for what it is.
Yeah, and the temperature sensor I use for my pool is actually outdoor rated, so it's not waterproof because I'm not submerging it in water, but it can handle the elements outdoors.
Yeah, and they have garage door sensors and all kinds of stuff.
Yep. And the good thing is they also integrate with things like Home Assistant. So you can pull the sensors, the entities into that and act on them for other things too.
Yeah, I've got it installed on Home Assistant, but I haven't used it yet.
I wish their website didn't look like it was made in like 2007 or something. Yeah. I guess.
Well, there's a reason why everything costs so cheap from them, right? Like,
that's right.
I don't care what their website looks like if their product's like affordable,
Oh, that's not that bad. There's professional companies that have way worse websites.
Go to the Smart RV page. Tell me.
Smart web page.
If you go into the products area, there's a Smart RV page. I don't know. I think they're just talking about putting humidity sensors on your RV or whatever, but anyway, it's definitely a dated looking web design or whatever, but the stuff looks pretty cool.
You could do a whole house in this though.
You could, yeah. I wish I'm gonna wait
before I do anything
with this. API. I'm gonna wait. Yeah, wait for the local. Yeah, I want the local API.
Yeah, they like, and I like that, their website does look kind of janky, but I like that they break it down into like different categories. Like they have one for like like smart aquariums and RVs and stuff like that. And that's kind of a unique twist on it. Usually people just give you the products and they tell you what they can be used for, but they're actually breaking down like different industries.
Like they have like water control, like you could turn off the water to your house and monitor power failures. Like there's so many products they have, but my only thing is I wouldn't want to leave something that important to a cloud service. Like, that some of these things, there's certain things I'm okay with a cloud service, but if I want something emergent in an emergency, like the water shut off, I wouldn't want that in a cloud service.
I agree. I just think it's fascinating. They have like power plugs and stuff that do quarter-mile range. Like you could buy a power strip or like a plug-in outlet or like a Wi-Fi, light switch, and they do a quarter-mile range. Like that's nuts.
I might just buy this and plug it into like one of my neighbors' outside lights and mess with them. They will never know.
They have a hub for just speech, so you could just send voice things over the internet. That's hilarious.
If you find their product catalog, it's much better than their website. It's a PDF download, and it's laid out nicely, and it's got all their products with all the information, and it's legible. I guess is what I'll say.
Do you know if this is like proprietary like technology, Gavin, or is this just like anybody can use it kind of thing?
I've been trying to figure that out myself. I know the LoRa is a standard, but I don't know if their devices are in a way forced to connect to their hub. I've been trying to figure that out because I wanted to see if I could join the devices directly to my Home Assistant, right? And just skip their hub altogether. That's something I actually have on my list because they use I think somebody's able to read it out of the air and just put it into MQTT. And I was going to actually try that and see if I could bring it in directly without having to use their hub. But I'm not sure at this point.
Well, and supposedly, according to their website, it says even if your internet's down, it will still work with paired devices. So that's good.
It will still work, but there's certain things that
like you're not able to do schedules and stuff like that, I'm sure.
Into that. Yeah, the schedules and stuff. But then you can pair up certain devices. And even when it's almost like Z-Wave associations, and even when your internet's down, that still works, right?
Yeah, definitely worth a shot if you're looking for a long distance solution, like a motion or door contact or something like that,
or even a short distance solution.
Yeah,
I mean, there's a lot of like DIY type looking product in here, but they've got all sorts of like outdoor motion detectors, outdoor alarm systems,
a little bit of everything. To be honest, you could probably do a whole house in this.
Yeah, I think you could. I mean, there's dimmer or light switches. I'm not sure if they're dimmer, but they have a remote. There's a Yolink remote that has how many buttons does this thing have in it?
Key fob. Yeah,
there's a couple buttons on it. 500-foot range for the remote with a 5-year battery. So yeah, it's interesting technology. This LoRa stuff. So looks like it has 10, 12 buttons, I guess. To figure out what the price of that is and add it to the DB. Cool stuff. A good find, and I'm glad to hear it's working really well for you there. I've often thought about putting some kind of sensor out in my mailbox too.
Well, there you go. Now you can.
Yeah. Well, not without the local API.
I'll send you one of the motion sensors for free. You just have to buy the hub.
Oh, pretty good pick of the week, Gavin. You also ran across something, the AR ability in the Unify app. What? It's been out for a while. What did you find interesting about it?
I may be late to the party with this one, but I actually thought it was kind of cool.
It's kind of hidden, so I don't blame you. It's like, what button is this?
Yeah, that's basically how I found it. I had the Unify app open on my phone, and it said AR, and I was like, what button's this? And then I clicked on it, and it said, scan, on my Unify switch, scan the little code, and you hold the camera up to it, and you scan it, and it does some stuff in the background. But what it does is then after I hold it over like my switch, it tells me what's plugged into each port. Using AI, it just overlays the information on the camera image, and I was amazed at how well it worked actually, because my ports were all covered up by like the plugs. They all had cables in them. They're all plugged in. So I was like expecting it to not be able to find the switch or whatever. No, it worked perfectly, and it told me what was plugged into each port, and I actually found it was cool. I'm not saying that you couldn't do this before, because I know in the app you could go to the switch itself and look at the details and it showed you what was in every port anyway. But I just thought it was like a cool thing that they could do. Whether or not it's useful or not, maybe if you're out in the field doing this every day, it's nice if you just walk up to it and look at it. But it's really cool.
I was thinking like a big rack install would be kind of useful. Like if you had multiple stack switches and, you know, you see those pictures of those data centers that have just gone wrong and they've got wires everywhere. Like they could probably be useful for something like that.
It was actually that, now that you pointed out, somebody on Mastodon sent me, it was like a little GIF of them going through like a big rack where it had multiple switches and they were just waving the camera over and it was telling it what was everywhere, right? So if you're looking for something specific, that's probably a faster way of doing it, just by using your camera, you know, to find it instead of having to go into each switch in the app. So there's one reason why this would be cool.
I'm looking. I'm looking through that Yolink PDF, and they have a garage door controller too. It's called the Finger in quotation marks. They've got a button pusher garage door controller. So you just stick it on the wall next to your button on the wall, and it reaches over with its little finger and presses the button.
Oh, do they have like a SwitchBot?
It's like SwitchBot.
Genius. Yeah. That's awesome.
I was looking for one of those.
That's pretty cool. Works with all push button types of controllers. There you go.
That's a good idea.
Yep. Little automated finger there. Very cool. Very cool. Well, we will put all of the links and from our picks of the week there in the show notes, HomeTech.fm/421. If you have any picks of the weeks, great idea for the show, discussion topics, head on over to HomeTech.fm/feedback, and you can fill out the online form there, or you can send us an email at feedback@HomeTech.fm. All right. Real quick project updates. Gavin, you said you were shoveling.
Multiple times. Like I'm sure a lot of people got hit by the snowstorm recently. This week, you know, it looks like we got about 20 centimeters of snow. I went out there, shoveled my driveway, you know, helped the neighbor, helped the other neighbor, helped the fourth neighbor, and then had to shovel my driveway again. It was falling so fast, you know, so it's good to have neighbors, but, you know, next time I got to understand how many, you know, I can really help before, you know, it's not worth my time.
Almost 8 inches of snow for all those metrically impaired. It's a lot of snow.
Yep. You know, we bought a snowblower, you know, after doing that, we went out and bought a snowblower. So the days of shoveling are over.
Yeah, we got a ton of snow today. I think it snowed like 4 to 6 inches, but it's pretty much all gone already. So did not last very long.
It's about 10 centimeters. I mean, based on my other math.
I think it's like two bowling pins or something like that.
Yeah, bowling pins. It's like half a banana, something like that.
Seth does not know the struggle we go through.
What, snow or measuring things?
Snow.
Both.
Oh.
Yeah.
Say, I can't measure anything to save my life, so.
Yeah, that's what the number sticks are for. All right, TJ, you've got some cubes you want to tease.
Yeah, so I want to give a shout out to Brandon Miller in the chat. He was helping me with some Elan programming this past weekend. Been working on a home theater project, and to my stupidity, I haven't touched Elan in the past 4 months. And so I was programming it up this past weekend. He jumped on a video chat with me on Sunday to help me out with the programming. And he was telling me about this Magic Cube from Innovo. I'm probably saying that name wrong. But basically it is a small little computer for about $100. It runs Home Assistant, and you can tie it in directly with Elan. So if you had some kind of Zigbee dongle attached to it, you could, pair Zigbee devices to it and then bring them straight into Elan. So I haven't had a chance to play with this yet. I've just started doing some research. I think I'm set up with a conference call on Friday to kind of discuss it and see if it's a good fit. But honestly, it sounds like an amazing product for what it is. And I'm sure it's kind of hacky, right? Like you're bringing in a third-party home automation system into another home automation system. But that would be like a game changer, right? because a lot of times when you get into these professional home automation systems, you can only use their set things or what people make drivers for. This, though, they've made a driver for Home Assistant basically, and anything that Home Assistant supports, you can bring into it as well. So I'm interested to play with that. Maybe I'll have one in the next week or two and actually get to play with it. But I just figured I'd give a shout out to Brandon there and shout out to the product because it sounds really cool.
For the record, most of these home automation systems are hacky. Once you dig down into the code far enough, you realize how bad it really is.
Well, and they're just so they're so constricted to what they do. And, part of that is because they want things that are going to work a certain way and it's going to work that same way all the time, which makes sense, especially in a professional product. But sometimes they're too restrictive where you can't add just normal stuff, right? And sometimes that is a problem because if I just want to add a simple USB, outlet or something like that, I have to buy the specific one from this control company that is probably a couple $100. With this, I could just buy, a $50 Z-Wave thing or $50 Zigbee thing, plug it in and bring it in directly. So, I don't know if I would use it as a permanent solution everywhere, but it would be nice if somebody buys some off-brand shades or off-brand lighting or something like that. And I can just buy this little device and plug it in.
Because everything works with Home Assistant.
Yeah, that's right. Well, and that's what's funny too, right? Is that from the same company, you can buy a MyQ driver for $80. Or you could buy this $100 Magic Cube thing, which ties in directly to MyQ for free. And then you can integrate directly there. So it's kind of bypassing all the other stuff that you would need. And Home Assistant supports everything. So
yeah, it's a bridge on top of another bridge on top of another bridge. It makes sense to it's kind of what I'm doing in my house, right? I have HomeBridge running for bringing in all the Apple stuff, but then I have Control 4 running, and it just pipes all that information over to HomeBridge. It's kind of the reverse of that, I guess, because you would be using Elan or Control 4. But yeah, it's interesting. These guys were at CEDIA, so there's a video of their booth over in Rave. I'll put a link. There's a YouTube link now to that video.
Of course, there's a Rave link for it.
Yeah, well, they attack everybody at the booths at CEDIA, so I have to think about that. I think we're going to be at CEDIA, in a booth, so I'll have to think about what wild stuff we can do for our Rave video to go viral. Like somebody's going to streak our video or something like that. It'd be fun. Let's see. Yeah, I'll put the link to this video in the show notes. You can check it out. It's like you said, it's just a little Raspberry Pi.
Yeah, a little tiny thing.
Yeah, we'll have to keep an eye on them because that's a lot of stuff that it can do. All right. Well, I have been watching movies. Does that count as a project?
Sure. Let's go with that.
Haven't been fixing this stupid server. I think that's going to take a while, but the Oscar announcements came out this last week, and I've seen a couple of the movies that were nominated for Best Picture. All Quiet on the Western Front, it's a Netflix produced movie. It's kind of pretty cool. Avatar, of course, it's on there. The Banshees of Inisherin, I don't know how to pronounce that, but Elvis is probably, I've heard that's really good. It's probably going to win. I don't know.
It's pretty good.
Yeah. Everything Everywhere All at Once, also pretty good, but
I kind of like that, but
a lot of hype.
The wife didn't like that.
I don't know. There was a lot of hype in that movie, and I don't know. It was good. The Fablemans, actually saw that. Really good. Steven Spielberg. So just directing and good movie. Just leave it at that. Top Gun Maverick. Seen that one too. I think everybody's probably seen that. TJ, have you seen Top Gun yet?
I have not.
Oh, get busy, man. Just plug it into your theater tomorrow while you're there finishing it up and say, this is why you bought this theater. So you can watch Tom Cruise. All right. And then Triangle of Sadness and Women Talking are the last two on there. A lot of nominations. I think a couple of years back, they did a lot more than the 5 nominations for Best Picture. There's a ton of other things that, that get nominated for the Oscars and the technical awards and that kind of stuff. So best sound, best, sound design, all that good stuff. So I can't wait to watch them. I love this season, but I'm trying to watch all these movies, and I've only seen The Fableman, Top Gun, and then Everything Everywhere All at Once, which were all excellent movies. Can't complain. I'll have to see Elvis. I think I've been hearing that one was actually really well done. It seems kind of hokey and corny, but
it was pretty good. It was better than that. I enjoyed it. And the other movie I want to watch is Whale, with Brandon Fraser.
Oh, The Whale, yeah.
Yeah, that one looks good.
Had a couple of nominations as well, but not for Best Picture. I can't remember. Probably Best Actor or something like that. Not sure. I don't know. We want to see that one as well, but I don't think that one is out of the theaters just yet. I think all the other ones you can kind of watch on stream. A couple of them you can watch on streaming service. I really like that when it's actually available for you to watch the movies before they have the award ceremony. Like it's nice to go ahead and be able to see them without having to like rush out to a movie theater at the last minute. So I saw something fly up there about Yolink devices connect only to Yolink Hub. Oh, bummer.
Yeah, to any Yolink hub.
Any Yolink
Can
hub.
we join them to a non-Yolink hub, like a LoRa hub or something like that? Yeah.
I'm not sure. Only other LoRa device I know, which I saw today, actually, it's kind of funny, is a guy I know makes like this device. He works for a company as a startup that makes a device that you install and it detects gunshots. And they're LoRa devices, low powered, 5-year battery, blah, 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 blah. And they can put a bunch of them up. They look like little street light things. He was showing me the outdoor version. There's an indoor and outdoor version. And they're not microphones on them. They're like some kind of subsonic thing that they have developed, and it can detect the ballistics and everything. It's kind of a cool thing. You put up 1 or 2 of them, and I guess you can triangulate where the gunshot comes from and what gun shot it and all that good stuff. So they're in with Homeland Security and law enforcement. But it was LoRa. He was like, oh, this is a LoRa hub thing, and it hooks up to this, and theirs is all locked down. And I was like, can you compare this with anything else? Of course I asked Gavin. He was like, no, these are all like deployed, ready to go, like secured, locked down. There's no messing with these. And it's like,
So I'm guessing if it's in the spec that you can lock it down that way,
yeah,
right? Then I'm guessing the Yolink will only join Yolink hubs.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Zigbee is kind of the same way too, right? Like there's Control 4 Zigbee, which has some kind of magic stuff that doesn't let it join with anything. And there's the Zigbee that everybody else uses. Restaurant has their own Zigbee.
Well, no, I mean, that's the problem with Zigbee, though, is that everybody can make their own version of Zigbee, which doesn't pair to other things. So that's why a lot of people use them.
I don't know. We'll have to see. We'll have to find. Maybe we can get those Yolink guys to come on the show and talk to us. We haven't done an interview in forever.
We have not.
No, or at all. I haven't done one.
I was say we have not actually done one since we started. So
We talked about it, but we never got around to doing one.
yeah.
Maybe Yolink could be the first one. Like, you gotta reach out to them.
We'll see if we can get them on. Yeah, maybe the note server work that night. All right. Well, let's see. I do want to give a big thank you to everyone who supports the show, but especially those who are able to financially support the show through our Patreon page. If you don't know about the Patreon page, head on over to HomeTech.fm/support to learn how you can support HomeTech for as little as $1 a month. Any pledge over $5 a month gets you a big shout out on the show, but every pledge gets you an invite to our private Slack chat, The Hub, where you and other supporters of the show can gather every day and talk about all sorts of fun stuff. See TJ's theater installs. That's pretty cool, yeah. But this week we did have a new patron join at the $5 level, so we want to give a big shout out and thank you to Matt H. Thank you so much. You really it really helps us support us and keep the Mastodon server up and going and all that good stuff. He says he's been listening since 2020, so glad to have you on board, Matt. Thanks very much, and hope you can get in there and learn something from everybody in the hub and ask questions or contribute. That's kind of what the community is there for. So happy to have you aboard. That does wrap up a week here at HomeTech. Have a good weekend, everybody, and we'll see you next week.
Till next time.
Take care.
That was just a short 1 hour show that I'll have.
Yeah,
to
that was
tomorrow.
super short.
Yeah, that's amazing how it goes.
Holy
We
cow.
have nothing to talk about.
2 stories.
We have nothing to talk about, but somehow it lasted an hour.